outside the box, away from the brick and mortar, think outside the box from the glass-cladded buildings, and trying to create buildings that are beautiful, buildings that are resilient to climate change, buildings that will outlast the life that we are in now, and buildings that are very comfortable, that when people are living, whether they're living in informal settlements or in high-end areas, are able to enjoy construction, they're able to enjoy their homes, and they're able to enjoy the things that, the places where they're being accommodated. And I think just to wrap it up is the issue of, and we talk about this is when you're talking about smart cities and so on and so forth. I think, and the governor this morning talked about dignifying our city. Can we dignify our city? And there are probably very many ways of doing this, is that ensuring that when we talk about resilience, we do this with the people that we're going to design for or let's say implement that particular policy upon. Now that's not how it should be. We should actually start from them, that we need to really take this issue of public participation as a very, very important issue, that decisions and thoughts and ideas need to actually come from the ground all the way up, and there should be like a up down and top down kind of approach where we're able to listen to what they're saying, we translate it to something that's technical, and being able to take it back to them and show them that this is actually how we're going to do it. Because at the end of the day, the informal settlements are here. It's unfortunate, and where we are as a country, we are kind of finding ourselves retrofitting. We need to retrofit our cities, meaning that we may not be building from scratch, but whatever is existing, we need to find a way of now changing it to ensure that as even as we're retrofitting, it's actually creating resilience and building resilience for the people who are living in these particular areas. I think, Dr. Robert, I'll leave it at that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Architect Florence, and the insights that you bring from the planning perspective to the integration of the new building technologies, the aspect of green building practices, and into the policy, which comes back to, of course, the role of the players in the policy formulation, then becomes a critical aspect of the synergies that is looked into in this process. Allow me then to bring to this conversation, because data and research are a critical issue that are emerging from almost all the speakers here. And none other than Dr. Johannes from African Research and Impact Network. The role of research, how do you see it progressing, and how is it integrating in the agenda?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Sangori, and to the panelists for raising some very fundamental points. Research is very important, as you've mentioned, because research tells us what works and what does not work. It gives us facts around solutions that can be realistic. We're talking about a lot of things here. There are a lot of beautiful terms: green, is it green housing, green building, safe housing, a lot of great things. And I like what my colleague asked about what does affordable housing mean? What do these terms mean? And they mean what to who? Are we defining them based on certain specific interests, or are we defining them based on real research, facts and figures? So that's very fundamental, that really research plays a central role in these particular processes in terms of unpacking the nuances around some of these big terms that over the years of my work in climate change and, of course, resilience work with a number of African governments, I've had being profiled. There are three things, Robert, that I would say with regards to research, especially looking at the status or the trends of research. Number one is that there's a lot of research already going on with regards to building urban resilience and sort of profiling the voices of the poor. We did a review of some of the tools or research methods that have been put in place by different initiatives, from international to the local research actors. And we found that there are almost over 700 tools Yeah, in the informal settlements alone of Nairobi, a place like Mukuru or Kibera, tools that are basically being deployed in those areas to support resilience planning and all that. And you are, actually these are being deployed to the same communities. So what we see is that there's a lot of burden of research into the communities, and the communities, especially the vulnerables that you are talking about, are becoming more disempowered instead of being empowered. Actually, if we're talking about raising the resilience of the urban poor, actually it's about empowering those communities and understanding what they want, what can they really contribute, what is their voice. But again, if you have hundreds of tools with different organizations heavily deployed with a lot of expectations in these communities, then research actually has not played that role of empowering the communities to know what they need to say, to consolidate their voice, to strengthen their perspective. So that's a problem. And the big issue here is around the consolidation of research and coordination. So while there's a lot going on, I think there is really limited coordination with regards to research that is focusing on building urban resilience from the poor perspective. So we need to do that. I think that's what we've been, the conversation we've been having with BICRAP and UCLD, that how do we begin to create a framework for consolidating research? How do we learn from some of the tools that have been deployed successfully and have been developed with the communities? How do we build integrated tools that really can not only co-create solutions with the communities, but also build confidence in the communities without scattering them? Because what is happening now is that a lot of research is really scattering the community. There's a lot of fatigue within the communities with regards to the research that is subjected to them. Number two is that a lot of research that we see today is more focused on situational analysis. And situational analysis is more about what is happening, who is more vulnerable, who is being impacted, but they are limited in terms of providing solutions. And perhaps this is the reason why a lot of the research that has been done has not found their way into the policy space, simply because for research to reach a policy, there has to be stages. There has to be the research done, there has to be the synthesis, the translation, the engagement with the policy makers, and those engagements have to happen based on tangible solutions. But what we see is that a lot of research really presents the situation, which is good. It's not bad to say, really, so and so is vulnerable. These, women groups or women categories or youths are more vulnerable. It's okay, yeah. But really, what is next after that? Which is the question. Because then, if you just present the situational analysis, what we have is a lot of research products, papers that have been published, but they do not offer solutions such as the ones we are looking for within the BICRAP. And finally, to say the least, I think the aspect of funding is a problem. There is really very limited funding for research, and this is, of course, occasioned by the fact that African governments have not invested in research. If you look at, the average investments in research across African member states, you'll realize it's, relatively below 2%. Kenya, I think, is around 1% or below. So what that means is that we have to depend on funding from outside. And funding from outside, based on some of these conversations, have a lot of conditions in terms of what needs to be done. They really are good, they're helpful, but sometimes they really don't help to unpack the situation much more clearly, because a lot of it either remains somewhere supporting expatriates who really define the methodologies that needs to be deployed. So if, for instance, there is a funding of, let's say, $100,000 to do some risk assessment in a place like Mukuru, you'll find that about $90,000 remain with the expatriates. Then some 10,000 will be given to a local organization within the informal settlement to do some quick assessments and then reports and research and journal articles are published. That is not helpful. So I think there is need for, even as we talk about the Africa Climate Summit, that we need to look at ourselves as Africa. What is it that we can do? What are the models that we can, profile? How can we ensure that we are able to really develop funding for research, domestic funding mechanisms that will be able to really provide our own internal system before we really profile ourselves to the globe. And that has been a gap, because with that, we only play the tune of others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johannes. And I think that brings the connection to all the issues that we have just been hearing from our speakers. And the key challenge, of course, the last part of it, the means of implementation is about finance, technology, and all this, the need to have the convergence in the discussion that we are having. And as we move into the summit declaration, and of course, in crafting the roadmap to COP28, then some of these discussions we need to really from here continue the conversation and have clear partnerships that then takes us to the next stages of the implementation. As I come to, because I think time may not be on our side, but then we want to look at from this conversation this afternoon, how are we moving into the summit with this conversation, because it is not ending here. It will end when we are having the discussions at the summit. And allow me to welcome back Dr. Konyango to stage, just to announce some of the next steps in the BICRAM, because drawing from the first statement that was made, that is the encyclopedia of BICRAM. So what are we taking from here to the summit? Back to you.
Okay, two things in the interest of time. One is I want to welcome each one of us, all of us that are in this room. We will be having the launch of the BICRAP initiative, moving from initiative to implementation on the 6th of September during the Africa Climate Summit. This launch will be done by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. It will be at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So it will be launching and call to action that then moves us to COP28. You are all welcome. It will be at Lenana Hall, precisely 8 to 9 a.m. Lenana Hall. Book it within your diary, and we are inviting you. I want to wrap up by saying that all that my colleagues have said will be there. When we look at the population that living in our cities currently, in Kenya alone, 27.8% are youth between the age of 18 and 35. And this is projected to grow to 43 by the year 2030. And therefore, we welcome all the youth to say all that they can, because urban belongs to you, and we need you to define the future of the urban that you want. We are not defining you. When you look at my hair, it has grown white, and so I don't belong there. I am now retiring to the rural, where I belong. The future is yours, urban is yours. Even if I colored my hair, it would not qualify me to live in the urban area. Please come over to this meeting. We would be discussing issues of livelihoods, issues of infrastructure, issues of energy, issues of water and sanitation, We will be discussing issues of raising the adaptive capacity, you know, of the urban poor and our urban areas. We'll be discussing all that in a very, in a nutshell, within that, within the day of the launch. So welcome, and I think, Robert, I want to end it there. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been alerted that our time is up, and so the audience may have wished to have questions, but has been guided. We have another session which will bring this conversation. We have two sessions on BICRAP. The one that the President will be presiding over on the 6th, 8 to 9. But then we have another session on 7th on BICRAP readiness. So we'll have, that time there will be no protocols. So we'll have more time to discuss the rest of the details that the panel has just exposed to the audience here. Otherwise, welcome, and I congratulate all of you for finding time to be with us and bringing this observation that you have just brought on board. Thank you.
So thank you so much to the panel, but before you leave, I'm reminded that we need to take a picture. Dr. Shida, would you like to join us? KGBS board? Yes. So we can now proceed to lunch. So just to give you a quick heads up, there'll be two sessions in the afternoon right after lunch. So you have about 35 minutes to eat a really quick lunch if you want to grab the tour. So there'll be two groups. One group will be going for the Sustainability in Action tour to Tbilisi, where we will get to witness the IFC Regional Edge Champion, that is the Africa Logistics Properties, and we will also witness the 15-minute city concept by Tbilisi developers. So for those of you who want to go for the tour, we're really proud to partner with Classic Go, who will show us green transport in action as we go to see sustainability in action itself. So really quickly, grab your lunch so that you're there by 2:35, and then we depart at 2:40. And the second group, which unfortunately is an exclusive kind of arrangement, will be the deal rooms. So those two things will be happening simultaneously. So unfortunately, if you don't have an invite to the deal room, you can't be part of the deal room. So you will have to go to the Sustainability in Action tour, or you can take your time having lunch and unwind. And the plan is to make sure we conclude both the deal room and the tour firmly by 5 to kickstart our last session for the day. So thank you so much for your time. The Secretariat will direct you towards lunch, which is at the tent outside, if I'm right, the terrace, yes. So lunch is at the terrace, so you'll be walking out to your right and then circling back. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.